As you see here, I have my lovely guest. But before I introduce my guest, ROS, in a second, I want to remind those that are watching this, or will watch this, or will listen to this. Um, those that are watching live or participating live, you can leave comments and questions as we're speaking, and that we'll try to field as we go. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy our chat. So, welcome back, Rose. I'm glad we could reschedule this before I take a
Absolutely.
hiatus of my podcast. Um,
Absolutely.
we have some stuff to get to. You have a lot going on, and I wanted
Yeah.
to talk about. But first, kind of a little recap to those that have listened or may want to go back and listen to your previous episodes. Uh, we talked about in the last episode, you were getting ready to release music, and now you've
Yeah.
released music.
Yeah.
And this is exciting, and it just keeps going up on the charts in terms of
Yep.
people finding, and we'll get
Yep.
to that. And then we have some other things to get to. So, welcome back, and I guess
Thank
we'll
you.
start with that. Talk about your new single and your album and all the good stuff going on.
Sure. Well, first thing I want to apologize about. That was a really weird thing about having to reschedule. Ordinarily, I'd never do that. But for those who don't know, we were supposed to do this over a month ago, I think. And
Yeah,
out of nowhere, my retired behind gets a message to play for the first time in a year. And I was kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it was a lot of fun. So I wanted to apologize. I hate to do that, but it was a good experience for me to actually get back out and just see what I thought about it. So yeah, that was a good time, and I'm glad we could get back on the schedule. As far as the music, so yeah, man, COVID put me back in my creative bag. So when I was supposed to go tour last year, head to Korea for a while, and then to Brazil, and then all over the U.S. COVID made sure that didn't happen. So I had to figure out something else to do with my time, and so I went back to start working on the book, which I guess we'll talk about later on. The book turned into a class, which is going extremely well. We're about a year in now, and just out of nowhere, um, I get this idea in my head. It's like, yo, put music out. And I never thought about it other than the robotic beatbox thing from a few years ago, but I never really thought about putting out roast music. And picked up my notebook, just started. It seemed like it just kind of came out of thin air. I just started writing titles. I didn't have any music. I didn't have any collaborators. I didn't have anything but ideas. And here we are almost a year later, and the album is almost done. And it's just been an amazing experience. I mean, I'm very, very thankful.
and well, let's talk about your first single with
Yeah.
Ara Jade.
Yep.
Uh, Talk about this collaboration and how this came about, and really kind of this concept of this track.
Yeah. It's a story of social media. So the funny thing about me even meeting RJ, it came from uh, as things would have it, responses online, specifically Instagram, to the George Floyd situation, where the whole world was on fire. And someone had posted something. I think one of the group members had posted something, and I had been following her for a while. We didn't know each other. I don't even know how I began following her, but she posted something that I didn't agree with. And so in the comments, I stated what I didn't agree with. And we kind of just went back and forth. It wasn't really an argument, it's kind of a spirited debate. And then another one of the group members, again, I didn't know they were a group at the time. Another one of her friends jumps in. Then they're kind of talking, and I'm kind of like, no, I'm not trying to hear any of that. I'm just like, I'm on fire. So as we're going back and forth, then it dawns on us like, wait a minute, you guys are in the music business? And then I went and kind of did some research, and I was like, yo, the whole conversation changed. So I said, listen, I'm working on something, and when I'm ready, I'm going to reach back out. Now, you know how the internet is. So I'm sure that they just thought that I was some bozo, just kind of blowing smoke. But as true to my word, when I had a record, because I actually worked on Too Late with writers, so they weren't the original vocalists on the record. So I reached out and said, yo, I got something I think will be perfect for us. And it's just, I think that was July of last year. And yeah, man, and as luck would have it, we ended up collaborating, and they cut the record and came out, and it's done really well, man. No video or anything like that. I haven't put any remixes out. I kind of just wanted to use Too Late as kind of like my guinea pig record. I hate to say that, but I did, and this kind of exceeded anything that I thought it would do.
That's awesome. So I really like kind of, well, from the organic way you just describe of coming about, and then kind of you've been sharing on your Instagram and some other
Yeah,
ways, just the growth
yeah,
of this independent record and kind of
Yeah.
how it went from you weren't sure what the results were going to be, but it's just
Yeah.
been positive. Can you talk about your your way of finding how people are finding the track and just looking for a different sound that you're created?
Well, I'm from. A lot of people don't know that I literally am from the music industry. So people primarily know me from the DJ world, but my entire life I've been in the music business as well. I was in a boy band and things of that nature back in the day. So I kind of felt like a dinosaur. I felt like, I come from the world of Tony Braxton and all of that. So what I wanted to do is, and I've alluded to it, I was very transparent. I would post when I had 0 monthly followers, and then I get 5 monthly followers, and then I get 19 on Spotify, and I kind of brought everybody along through this process because what I wanted to do is I wanted to see how you can market music in today's era via social media, TikTok, Instagram, et cetera, and so on. So I probably have had the most fun I've ever had in the music industry with this particular record, in this particular project, because it's all brand new. And the internet has really removed the barriers of entry. And that to me it's exciting, it's sexy. And even at this point in my career where, I'm a senior, OG at this point, in the business, I don't I feel like I'm 15 years old again. Like, and it's really just been interesting to watch people find the record organically. People reach out from all over the world. I mean, you saw that I posted several different countries that the record has done well in, Bulgaria,
Yeah.
Chile. I mean, that's just blown my mind, and I'm just having a great time with it.
So I so when we talked before, it was like around this time that you were thinking about the album, but now the album's
Yeah,
pushed back a little bit later.
yeah.
I Can you explain kind of why you've had to push back, or is it just because of all the DJ school and everything else that we're gonna get into?
No, COVID. I mean, when that huge rush happened near the end of last year, we just stopped getting together. Like we didn't want to be. No one wanted to risk their life for a record, so we just all decided to stop. The great thing about me being independent, I don't care about a deadline. I might do the Beyonce. I might drop it just whenever. So at this point, I kind of feel like, number one, again, none of us wanted to get sick, so we literally just kind of just sat down for a while and worked independently. So deadlines at this point, everything's fluid. I just kind of feel like, as the ideas come, like, and here's the thing. I thank God that we did push it back because I've taken things off the record. I've written records that are far better than things that we had on there initially. So I'm just kind of trusting the universe in this instance. And when it's ready, be it now, it's going to be the summer because I have to get it off my desk. Like you know what I mean? I've got so many things going on, so I can't let this drag out too much longer. But yeah, that was the reason that we pushed it back. COVID really kind of shut us down for a few months.
Great. So let's talk about the DJ school. You've been in a
Yep.
year into it. You
Yep.
have lots of students, lots of interests, and
Yep.
then it's going to lead to a huge virtual
Yep.
conference coming up.
Yep.
So
Yep.
let's talk about the work you're doing with those that are wanting to DJ or learn more about the business.
This has been the greatest honor of my life. And it's not something that I ever planned. It far exceeded anything that I could have hoped. And for those who don't know, I started working on a book called DJ Incorporated, 2009. Now, I was on the road a lot then, so it was more of like a hobby. I'm a writer, so I like to write. So it's just an opportunity for me to have an outlet. And what DJ Incorporated initially was me interviewing DJs of all stripes, but a lot of really well-known, successful DJs, David Guetta, Ram Funky, Jazzy Jeff, a few others. People who are friends of mine about their careers. And so I have all this information about, their walk in the business. And I go back and I read it after a while, and I'm like, nobody's going to read this. I mean, it's a bunch of stuff you can Google. It's not really interesting. But what I found as I looked into it deeply was how they were successful. If you just extracted that from the interviews and you created a how-to, now you have something. And that's when it went from DJ Incorporated to how to be $1 million DJ. Now, fast forward, it's sitting on my laptop years. I'm writing when I'm, in a hotel or whatever. So everybody shut down. I go back to the notes and I say, you know what? Now's the time to put this out. So as I'm editing, I'm adding new information. Then it dawns on me, there's a class here. Everybody's at home around the world. Everyone's on their phones. Everyone's looking for something to do. So we're going to need to come out of this pandemic with a different idea towards our business. And it just turned into a class on a whim. I mean, like when I tell you, on a Tuesday, I had the idea, and 3 weeks later, I think we were live. It was literally that quick. And it has really exceeded anything that I thought it could be. And I've got students from all over the world, and I'm starting to see the results of like things that I'm teaching, and I'm just thankful. I'm really, really thankful.
I guess my next question is how does a virtual conference? I mean, obviously, there's a lot of virtual conferencing going on because of COVID, but I've seen this kind of build. I saw the comments on your Instagram, and then now there's just like a lot of people wanting to be involved and sign up. So talk about the DJ school like conference.
Okay, so again, whim. Probably a month ago, I was like, you know what? What's the next step of this? I mean, because I hate to say this because I don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but as much as I enjoy teaching, I think I eventually want to bring, and this has already started to happen, where I'm bringing partners in, and they'll be they'll actually take over the professorship of the program, and I will move on to TED Talk, kind of one-off, sitting down and really kind of talking and kind of being more of like almost like the chairman of what we're doing. So about 3 weeks ago, sitting at my desk, and I'm like, you know what? I used to go and hop on a train and go hop on a plane and go to different conferences in a variety of things that I've been involved in, the music industry or fashion industry, whatever. I love to hop on a train or a plane and just go to a conference. As a matter of fact, when I was up taking my exams in Cambridge, before all of this stuff happened, I just happened to be up at the university. And one of the nights I had off, I went to a conference in Boston for voiceover. So I just love conferences. So I'm thinking, what's the next progression for this $1 million DJ world that we're building now? And I was like, that's it. A one-day conference, keep the barrier of entry low, so it's not expensive. It's $25 until I think we're going to do 25 and for maybe two months, and then we'll go up to 50 at the last bit. But DJs can literally come one day, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., and network, learn everything from their home, their car, their phone. It's just, I'm excited. I'm really excited about that.
And did you say how many days is the conference? Like 3 days?
It's a one day. It's a one day. No, I'm not. I know me, and I'm not going to be overly ambitious in regards to trying to do the 2 to 3 day thing at this point, because my schedule right now just won't allow it. But that in that one day, we're going to pack it full and make it make sense, and leave people with something that we can grow from that particular point on. So I'm really excited. It's called the $1 Million DJ Virtual Conference. It's July 10th, and it's on Samba Digital, which is the platform that I primarily use for all education, virtual education. And it's going to be amazing. It really is.
Awesome. So you mentioned the book that you started writing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Are you going to still release a version of the book, or?
That'll be the summer. So let me kind of, I like to let people know that at this point, being 100% independent, I'm going to give myself the freedom to be fluid with things. And the reason that I say that is when you look at all the data that we have put into the book pre-COVID, or either at the beginning of COVID, because all of us thought, listening to Trump and everybody else, we all thought we maybe be shut down for 4 weeks and we'll be back to what we're doing. So that didn't happen, of course. We're in a very different world now. And if I would have put that book out the way that it was, without adding all this additional information post-COVID, it would have been a very outdated book by the time it hit the shelves. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. So the thing about the book is that essentially it's finished. However, as we're having these negotiations with different publishing houses, and I'm really kind of pushing them, I'm really, and I'll be frank, you guys, I don't have any need to go hat in hand to any of these companies and saying, hey, could you please? No, I mean, at the end of the day, I can do sponsored posts on all the social media platforms. I can go direct to consumer. I really don't need them. But I would like to be able to have them involved, because what that allows me to do, I mean, I don't it's not a secret that I want to be in Forbes in the next 2 years. Like I've said that, I put it out in the universe, I'm manifesting that, and I'll be in Forbes within the next 2 years. And I feel like a publisher will expedite that. However, I don't need them to do that. So what I decided to do was take my time, really understand streaming, because the future of our business may not be live. You know, um, I'm excited about the opportunity for DJs to be able to go global from their homes and make more money than they've ever made live. I'm really excited about that. So I've brought some folks in to really kind of help do the ideation and really kind of like be forward thinking. So that is the only reason that the book was delayed, because we really wanted to make sure we updated that information. As a matter of fact, frankly, that's why everything has been pushed back. The album, the book, the docuseries, we're putting all of that content into this. So you're going to see a rush of stuff from me the last 2 quarters of the year for that reason.
Okay. I have a question because, as you may have noticed, I've dabbled in DJing recently on Twitch, just kind
I love it.
of starting out because of years and years and years I've been thinking about
Yep.
DJing, and here I am.
Yep.
And I've had some people on this podcast, and I've had some offline conversations about what Twitch or other platforms may do for DJing, and it feels to me like I don't understand why you wouldn't try right now, at the very least, to maybe create a brand on a platform like Twitch, or
Yep.
there's many popping up now, and some have in the last year have made a living on
Oh
Twitch
yeah.
DJing. And I know that everybody wants to get back to traveling and the festivals and the clubs, but at the end of the day, isn't it about the music and what you can bring to the art? And is it really about the geography of where you are, or is it about the skill and what you can bring to DJing? And like you just said, with the forward thinking about what's happening with streaming in general in the industry, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen? Because I've heard negative towards, oh, we're just going
Mhm.
to go back to the way it was, whatever that meant, or this is the future. So, kind of from somebody in your perspective, what do you think is
Mhm.
happening?
There's no one answer. And the thing that what I try to get my students to understand is that if you ever wanted to claim your freedom and your individuality, now's the time. Because there's no one can tell you that, you know what, the streaming thing is good for now, but we really should be focusing on getting back outside. There's some young people that with micro DJing on TikTok that are going to make a living there and probably never hit a nightclub. And that's going to be a reality. And they're still DJs, and they should be respected. And we should be curious about their journey in this new chapter in the DJ industry. So me, I'm respectful of the culture and the history, but I'm also respectful of the future. I want to be a Jetson. I don't want to be a Flintstone. So, at the end of the day, my answer is whatever makes the most sense to you. Like again, when I'm in class and I'm talking to my students, they're really shocked that I've only went online to stream live once. And I tell them I'm not interested. That's not for me. I'm an energy god. I need a crowd. I mean, I need that. So if the future is streaming, and I think very well that it may be, then I have no problem saying maybe this is not. And I could change. Here's the thing: I reserve the right to change my mind. You know, as I learn, I might have a situation where I'd create a show and it's scheduled, and I mean, I've actually thought about it. And if I decide I want to do that for the love of doing it, but not for the money of doing it, then I'll do so. But just to answer the question, I think that every individual should take a look at the landscape, and they should make their own individual decision on what it is that matters to them. Now, for me, I don't have anything left in the DJ business that I didn't want to do. I'm doing it now. I mean, the thing about the music, that was the last thing that I wanted that I hadn't gotten to. So it from just on a personal level, I don't really, I don't care if we get back outside or if it's all streaming. I really don't care one way or the next. I feel like whatever a person decides that they want to do in this moment, I hope and pray that they make their own individual decision and they do that.
Yeah, I guess maybe because in society right now we're in a big thing of people telling everybody, "Hey, this
Can
is
you
the
hear me?
way to do it
Okay, there.
because it worked."
Okay, cool.
Um, but I was just curious what your thoughts were on that. Uh, I do want to touch on something that you've been doing that everybody should be paying attention. I've is your DJs Against Hunger campaign. Um, I don't think a lot of people. I mean, in general, it's not just a DJ's thing. There was a study today. The AP came out with saying that there's still people going to food banks more than ever now,
Yep.
even though everybody seems to think
Yep.
that the economy is rolling.
Yep.
And I've donated. I mean, a small amount, but I've donated what I could at the time to the cause. Can you talk about? You just helped a family that really needed um, some help. Can you talk about what the community's been doing in this DJs Against Hunger?
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things about starting this class and having the opportunity to talk to so many DJs in the last year in a way that I never have in my life, I know more so than most the level of struggle that our industry is going through on an individual basis. People are really having a hard time. And when you talk to them individually, you get a clearer picture of, because social media is Disneyland. So it's a bunch of make believe nonsense out there. But when you get a chance to really talk to people, and everyone knows that I put my number up every week, and that's my business number. Then I've also got my, if someone sends me a direct message about the class, I give them my personal number. So it's really easy to reach me. So people know that they can text, or they can, they can call. If they just want to talk, get something off the chest, if they need something, they know that they can do that. So for those who don't know, DJs Against Hunger was launched in 2014, and it's something that we've been doing for a while, and it was really getting DJs across the country mobilized to bring food to food banks. Well, the pandemic basically, I mean, it quadrupled the need, conservatively. I mean, there's a lot of struggle that the news is not covering, and for me, I wanted to start 2021 doing a DJs Against Hunger drive every month. Now, that got thrown off track, as you know, about the story about the family, the DJ who was living out of his van with his sons, and it just kind of became this whole thing. And I'm so thankful to people like yourself who heeded the call, and got involved, and we saved some lives. Whether people, I will never go out and tell the whole story of what was really going on, but it was a life or death situation, and I don't say that lightly. So yes, DJs Against Hunger is really trying to stand in the gap and trying to inspire people to really remember that even though it's not in the headlines anymore, your neighbors and your family and your friends and your fellow human beings are really out here against the gun, man. And so I try to make sure that I stand in the gap, and that I encourage others to do so. And I have no problem hopping on my feet and asking for the help. I have no problem doing that whatsoever.
Yeah, I mean, like as much as people are distracted by this and that, I keep reminding myself that there's others that need the help. So when I can help, I try to help, or at least try to bring awareness by sharing posts on social media. If you can't donate at that time, I mean, as much as the world wants to think that everybody's getting back to some sort of normal, whatever that means. I don't even know what that word means anymore. But there's people out here that it. And the thing is everybody's struggling differently. I mean, I spent last
Yep.
year in LA, and now I'm back in Arizona, and I saw a change from the time I moved to LA, from the time I
Yep.
moved back,
Yep.
in homelessness and despair. And that's when they were saying things were opening back up and everybody was getting their jobs
Yep.
back. I mean, that's not
Yep.
the story that, you know, I
That's
saw
very true.
personally. So I'm glad that and the more that know, if you listen to this episode, you watch this episode, please, I'm going to put uh, Russ's Instagram up, and you can get more information on how to donate, because this needs to be, it's not just about DJs himself. It means
Right.
it's people who need help, and they may or may not be a DJ, but
Yeah. It's
something that,
interesting you say that, because here's, not to cut you off, but honestly, what you guys just watched happen over the last month and a half was the first time we actually really did it for a DJ. In the past, it ordinarily was DJs coming together and helping the general public, but this situation was so singular that we got together and we helped one of ours. And I think that was eye opening to all of us. You got to think that happened the day after matter of fact, the day of me releasing my record. So I had to try to figure out how do I promote and how do I help. And I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't announced this yet, but I personally, for mental health issues, I got to take a break from DJs Against Hunger for a second. That, people don't understand that wore me out. Just having to put a lot of things to the side and actually beg people to help us. So I don't. I would do it again, but I don't ever want to have to do it again. That was tough. So I'm going to take a month off from DJs Against Hunger for my own sanity. You know what I mean? And I hate to say that, but at the end of the day, I don't own it. If somebody decides they wanted to do a drive and something like that, and while I'm resting, so be it. But yeah, man, that was a lot, and it was really eye opening to walk with someone through their trial and fire.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's also because it's like, I guess right now I'm kind of burnt out with understanding why people can't understand why people are struggling, and that it wasn't just because of COVID. A lot of people were
Right.
struggling prior to COVID, and COVID just
Right.
exacerbated the
Right.
problem. And
Yep.
now, and then as we saw with everything going on with George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and everything that was going, there's just so much that needs. And then the shootings recently, I mean, there's so much going on. I know that people are just kind of like, I don't want to talk about anything that's serious, but that's the problem. I mean, we keep ignoring the problem. We keep ignoring what's going on, the root of the problem. And I think I mean, without yourself or, people coming together to help, I'm not sure that, that would have happened, because there's so much going on that people are just like, I don't know what to pay attention to. I don't know I don't know. We could go on about that, but
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, I'm glad that, like, from what has been happening in terms of your school and then the records coming out and all your projects happening, it's kind of all organically fed into each other and helped each
Yeah.
other.
Yep.
Because,
Exactly right.
I mean, people may have known you as one thing, but now they're kind of seeing the entrepreneur and the
Yep.
mogul you are, in terms of like, oh, he's not just a DJ. He's not just
Yep.
a mentor. He's got an idea of how to like help, or, what he's doing. And I think you and I have known each other for many, many years. I mean, this is your
Yeah.
third time on the podcast.
Yeah.
You've seen me
I
grow.
appreciate
We've
it. Yeah.
both been like doing stuff for years, and I just think it's interesting that we could talk about this, because I think years ago we talked about what we were struggling in a conversation about, how can we help out people. And I think
Yeah.
it's just funny how
Yeah.
it's come full circle, where this is, it's necessity for some people that, we need to come together. But
Yeah. It's number one, I want to thank you for your support and being a friend. All these years, it's just been wonderful to get to know you. And the most important thing, I think, I've never felt more thankful than I do right now. And I found that to be interesting, because I say that as I've gone through a year where I only DJ twice. You're going from somebody doing like 300 gigs a year, and I gotta have a year where I do two. And what that showed me is that it was time for me to move on to other things. Now, when I say that, some people misunderstand and they think that I feel like that I was ran out or I needed to retire. That's not what I'm saying at all. I just am growing, and I'm studying the Elon Musk and the Jeff Bezos and the Kanyes of the world, because I'm going to give Kanye his flowers. He might irritate the hell out of me sometimes, but he's a genius, and I have no problem saying that. So what I'm really trying to do is, if you know the term blue flame, I feel like right now I'm in my blue flame mode, where like literally, and if the blue flame is the hottest part of the flame at that particular point. And it's crazy to say that when you're not DJing, but I'm telling you, I have never felt more locked in. That's probably the best way to put it. You know, even like, you know, I relaunched my graphic design company last week, and I'm up with it. Like it's off to the races. And I've never really had. I guess I DJ'd so much that I was in the way of other things that I needed to be doing. So now that I'm not DJing, you know, all these other things have their room to blossom and grow, and I'm gonna let them do that.
Yeah, I mean, well, we also touched on the last episode and here and there about the importance of mental health.
Yeah,
Myself, for those that don't know, this is probably my last episode for a long time. So, which is hilarious because I've been doing this for 9 years. Um, but I mean,
yeah,
when you find that maybe you need a break or you need to move on to another project, I feel like people aren't giving themselves a chance to move on to that project. And I think that, as you've just talked about, you were not that you were distracted, but you were used to, traveling and DJing and the grind of that. It didn't allow you to creatively think about writing music or collaborating with people that you may not have thought you could have collaborated with or whatever. Now you're a mentor to to the industry. So
mm,
I think it's great that, like, people need to realize that maybe they do need to evaluate. And I think COVID, ironically enough, the one positive that we can think of to come out of the last year is that people are reevaluating what they what they're doing. Do they want to stay in the job they were in? Do they want to invest in this? Do they want to help this charity out? Do they want to become an activist? I mean, we're seeing kind of like the shift, like you mentioned in the beginning, of things aren't the way they were, and this idea of normality is
yeah.
kind of interesting to me.
Well, you know, make no mistake about it. I mourned when I realized that I had reached the end of my DJ career. I mourned it, and and I struggled because I was like, you know, I don't know if I'm, you know, if you follow me for a while, I've been talking about retirement. This is not new. I've been talking about retirement for about 4 or 5 years. But when it really was like staring me in the face and saying, yes, time to go, I, when I realized that I didn't really have a choice, you know, I mourned that for a second. And I think I mourned it. I think I said this to you before because it was the last bridge to my dad, you know, because he was a DJ. And when, if I'm no longer an active DJ, you know, I kind of felt like, well, this bond that we've had since I was 9, am I breaking that bond? However, I very quickly realized that the class was the bond because you know, I have daughters, so they don't want to DJ. So this is me passing on the legacy that my dad passed on to me now to other people. So once that became clear, I was like, oh, okay, so yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you know, the album is is a piece of me working on my mental health. And what I mean by that is, I have two songs in particular that are very personal and directly out of my life, like ripped from my life, that are going to surprise people when they come out because I'm very honest in these records. I mean, I'm honest in a way that I'm going to be. It's going to be fascinating to see if people look at me differently after I say a couple of things on the records that no one's going to expect me to say, but I'm going to say them. And then the other thing is, I wrote a song, I guess about a month ago, if that, maybe 3 weeks ago. Took me 15 minutes to write it, called Therapy. It's the first song you hear on the album. And it's written with Coachella in mind. So if we ever get a chance to get on the road and tour behind the record, and if I ever get a chance to get Coachella, when the lights go down, the very first song you hear will be the very first song on the album, Therapy. And you know, it's funny, we were working on it yesterday, just kind of doing some soundscaping. And the engineer says, Rose, he said, I feel like I'm inside of this record. And I was like, that was the point. And it literally is someone crying out, saying that I need therapy. I mean, literally the hook is, I think I might need therapy, you know? And I don't want men specifically to feel like they can't outwardly talk about their struggles anymore, specifically black men at the front of the line with that. You know, it's too long we've been trying to be the strong, indestructible superhero, and we're dying because of it. So, you know, the thing about the album, and I can't wait for people just to digest it because it's not, even though I'm putting out singles, this album absolutely is meant to be digested as a piece, as a work. So there we really head on meet mental health. I mean, head on. We head on meet religion. Um, we head on meet love lost. I mean, it's a lot on that album that are just honest things. And so when you think about the things you lost in the fire, they're no longer traveling as DJ ROS. And now I'm ROS, whatever this multi hyphenate thing that I'm becoming, whatever that is, I'm now celebrating it. I'm not going to mourn a season ending at this point because, after winter comes spring. So clearly I'm in spring right now.
Right. I mean, I've talked about it a lot on this podcast over the years, and I've had my own struggles, and I think that's the only thing that got me out of my dark days is going to therapy. And then I was on medication for a while, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that has kept me going is knowing that we need to end the stigma about mental health, and that it's okay to not be okay,
Fact.
no matter who you are. And specifically, I guess maybe it was a generational thing. My folks are baby boomers, and I see it in them just kind of, maybe the stigmas from that generation or generations past. But I think it's time that if we don't talk about mental health, because you've been personally touched by it in many ways, we've talked about this on and off air over the years,
Mm-hmm.
that, I mean, people can't help themselves, or people feel like there's nowhere to get help. And specifically with what we're seeing right now, with kind of how we're in these like racial motivated times that never really left, but now it's okay to be what you are in terms
Yeah.
of that's the one thing, is like, no matter where you are politically, I just don't understand why there's first of all, why there's a question of whether or not things exist anymore. But that's a whole nother thing.
Right.
So in terms of, like you mentioned, I'm mixed race. My dad is Black, and so I think that was another reason why mental health was never really fully talked a lot when I was a kid, is because
Yep.
my family the bootstraps
Yep.
came from,
Yep.
them up, and I understand that mentality of like, I became successful. I want to show where I came from, but at the same time, you can't ignore mental health. You can't ignore years upon years of generational
Yeah.
baggage, I guess you could say, in terms of what. So I think it's great that like your art is putting out front how important. And I know it's personal to you, and you didn't even need to release these records, but it's something you find that
Yeah.
is helpful in terms of what you're doing.
Well, a few things. When it touches you personally, because you were around when I was doing the Motor Tequila stuff. And what
Yeah.
people don't know is that my partner committed suicide. And this is someone that was going through depression and alcoholism right beside me, and I didn't even catch it. And that turned my world upside down. And then the Avicii thing. This man
Yeah.
had all the success in the world, and his death was grisly. If you unfortunately know the details, grisly way to go. Anthony Bourdain,
Mm-hmm.
my spirit animal. You like, he committed suicide, so clearly that tells you that the trappings aren't enough. It has to be an internal journey that people have to go through, and damn it, we have to stop acting like it's something to be ashamed of. Every person out there is struggling with something, and the great thing about, I'm sorry, my dog is in the office with me, she's gonna drive me crazy. The great thing about this walk towards an awakening that I've been on personally, I said on a podcast Monday, my goal is to be able to run my business from my phone or my laptop, from wherever I am on the earth. I don't care if there's, I don't need a luxury house and luxury cars. I don't care about any of that anymore. And at one point I did. But the stress of being able to show people what you have, because at the end of the day, yeah, we might buy it because we like it, but we want somebody to see us driving the Benz. Let's just be honest. And I don't care what race you come from, or what social status you have. You want somebody to see you in the Benz. Let's just be real. So I've released myself from all of that, and I don't give a rat's ass what anybody sees me driving. what neighborhood they think I might live in. I would rather live in a hut in Hawaii and be done with any of that. But I say all that to say, I was telling my soon to be 20-year-old daughter, you can just block comments, right? I said, you can just like deactivate the social media feed, right? So you don't have to be bullied. You don't have to be attacked online if you're not online, right? So there is a certain amount of choices that we can personally make to better our mental health. And I think we have to start being brave enough, frankly, to make those. Suki, I'm gonna need you to relax, baby. Not right now. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. My dog's anyway, and she's being very vocal. But to the point, I'm not gonna allow myself to let this life make me a victim. And I know what it feels like to have perspective, like, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. What am I gonna do? And maybe it's not worth doing it. I know what that's like. I know what that's like personally. And I'm just gonna release. I feel like you know, maybe you have to go through losing a bunch of stuff or getting punched right in the gut and surviving it to know that you can survive it. Maybe that has to happen. And the one thing about studying all the success, and I study everyone, I don't care what the industry is. If you've been successful and you had a walk, I want to know how you did it. And the one thing that I learned in doing that is that every single one of those individual, male, female, young, old, black, white, you name it, they have all been through the fire. All of them. Sometimes 3 bankruptcies, sometimes being homeless, sometimes living in a car. They've all been through the fire damn near. Fire, Steve Jobs. I mean, I could sit here all day and talk about those struggles that those great individuals who we herald went through. Now, you think that they didn't have a point that they feel like, help, it ain't worth doing it. Let me jump out the window. Absolutely, they felt that way. But I think you have to be brave enough to say, you know what? Let me get to tomorrow. Let me just get to tomorrow. And when I talked to that family, that particular DJ that we talked about, that I helped, that we all helped over the last month, I told him that, brother, just try to get to midnight, because at midnight that means you're close to the morning. In the morning we have another shot at this. Let's just day by day, minute by minute, this thing. Let's stop looking so far down the road. And I think if I gave any advice to anybody, it would be that. My mother told me something when I was young, and I didn't understand it till I got older, and I'm going to share it with everybody listening or everyone who watches this. Stop crossing bridges you haven't reached. You know what I'm saying? You may never actually reach that bridge, but here you are in your head, driving yourself crazy, trying to figure out, well, once I get there, how am I going to? I mean, you might not even get to it. Just deal with what you can in the meantime, and it'll work itself out. So, I don't want to belittle mental health, because it's not what I'm attempting to do. The one thing that I will say is that there's some value in maybe making some different choices for yourself and taking some of that pressure off your own back,
Right. I mean, I guess, yeah, like you mentioned about your daughter about, you can turn the comments off, or, you can not be online. I find myself, my own inner commentary, even before COVID hit, but remembering, yeah, like, why are we feeding into the trolling and the bullying? Like, there's a lot of conversations about online bullying, online trolling, what have you. And the thing is it's bad, but it's also like, you don't have to be online 24/7, but everybody
No,
seems to want to prove that they're jet setting this, or they're putting this
yeah,
content up there. And at the end of the day, we're seeing everybody's collective mental health just take a
you better
nose.
believe it. And that's why, like, some people, I had someone hit me tonight. It's like, Rose, you don't have to say anything to the haters. I said, yes, the hell I do. I said, because what I need them to understand is that I'm not going to take it. I'm out there choosing to make my path my path. I'm not bothering anybody. I'm not trespassing anybody. And you're not coming in and you're not messing with that, man. So if you decide to walk in my neighborhood and walk in my lawn and piss on it, I'm going to shoot back at you. That's just how I am, And I feel like, you know, here's the thing, especially online, if you're doing something noble, completely yours, you're not hurting anybody, it's not disrespectful, it's honest. If somebody has something negative to say, then your light is disturbing that vampire. That's all it is. Vampires hate light. So your light is repulsive to them. Now, you can ignore and block them. I would suggest you do so. I just right now I'm enjoying shooting back, because I feel like if maybe you need to know that everybody online is not going to just take your nonsense. Everybody online is not going to be bullied. Because the one thing about me, you can't bully me. because I don't give a damn what you think in any way, shape, or form. So, when a person decides that they want to jump into my inbox or jump onto my page and say something stupid, I'm going to bring the light and I'm going to put the spotlight right on you. And I'm going to, the discomfort you're trying to give me, I'm going to hand it right back to you. And I'm going to make sure that I supercharge it to realize that maybe there's no value in you messing with somebody who wasn't messing with you. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like we need to get back to just having a good time with each other. The trolling thing is whack.
Yeah.
And if you're a grown up, trolling is another word for bullying. So cut it out. They told you in grade school that that's not what we're supposed to be doing. So I don't care what the rules of the internet are. You're not going to do that to me. And I'm not. And I feel like, I'm one of those people. If you've known me for a while, so you've seen me change a little bit. I absolutely have evolved into somebody that I am 100% standing. Let me tell you something. Kanye told all of us years ago, save these interviews because everything that I'm seeing right now will come to pass. And I'll be damned if everything he said did not come to pass. So I'm going to
Right.
walk in that. I'm going to walk in that, and I feel like if a person is out there, if that makes them upset, get some tissue. You're going to be upset for a while.
Right. And that's the thing that you said something earlier. I mean, you may not necessarily agree with somebody, but there are some things that you can't not like. I think it's hilarious that people talk about hating the Kardashians as much as they do, but yet they're still talking about the Kardashians. So really,
And, you
that's
know,
one thing that's like, but they've built an empire. Yeah, they may have not done it the way you thought to build an empire, but you're still talking about them, right? Like,
you know, I've personally known Kim since 2006, before she was famous. And one thing I was, and I
oh dear, I think we froze. He'll come back in 1 second. As we were getting going. Thanks to everybody who's watching this episode. I do, like I've mentioned a couple times, this is my last episode for a long while. The episodes will remain up in video and audio form. This audio will be dropped right in a few days. So look for Trending Topics with bbpodcast.com for anything that you're looking to catch up on. But yeah, I want to thank everybody out there that listens to this podcast, watch this podcast, and will find this podcast. And hopefully you'll go back and listen to the previous episodes that I had with Ross uh, to kind of get how this three-peat of an episode came about. Like we keep alluding, Ross and I have known each other for many, many years. And hopefully you find this conversation helpful and informative. But I want to thank Ross for joining. I know we're, internet issues sometimes with technology nowadays. Um, it happens. So for those of you, while we're waiting for Ross to reconnect, that don't know, that aren't watching it on all the different platforms, I recently became an affiliate on Twitch. And if you're watching this on Twitch, you know. But what that means is you can subscribe now and get fancy emotes, if you know what that means. So feel free to subscribe. I may pop up at some point on Twitch in the near future. So feel free to follow and or subscribe for notifications. And if you're on the YouTube channel, you'll see these episodes in syndication and replay. And also on the Facebook page, if you are currently watching. I know there are some people out there that check out the Facebook page. So, unfortunately, let me just double check to see if Ross can reconnect because he was having internet. There was a storm or something happening with the internet. So let me check 1 second. Anybody who's currently watched majority of this episode, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them. I will be able to see them and maybe we'll pop them up Other than that, I want to thank everybody who has paid attention to this podcast at any capacity over the last 9 years. My apologies. So sorry, technology. Uh, I do want to get Ross back because he was saying something that was quite interesting. Also, the social media, everything will stay up regarding this podcast. Uh, but just there'll be a hiatus of new episodes for a while. So anyway, let me see if he's able to reconnect. Also, if you aren't aware, and you have seen the posts of these episodes, and you keep seeing a hashtag that is BB Podcast Network, let me explain what that means because I've been using it for years. This is the flagship podcast of the BB Podcast Network, but what that is there was a network of podcasts. There's 3 other independent podcasts that were on the network, 2 of which stopped podcasting. So if you are a podcaster and would like to join the network, maybe I could help you out. Feel free to email bbmediaindustries@gmail.com or ttwithbbpod@gmail.com for inquiries. But what that also meant is that it also kind of had a double meaning. Uh, in terms of how long I've been doing this podcast, I've been able to network and meet people from, as you see, the music industry a lot, as well as other disciplines. And it became a networking kind of opportunity and promotions. And that's kind of what I do under BB Media Industries. This has kind of happened over the course of 9 years, almost a decade, which crazy to think that I've been working on it this long. Oh, Russ is coming back. 1 second.
Very strange. I'm gonna try to move this over to I'm gonna try to move it over to my laptop.
Okay, no worries.
All right. That was very, very bizarre.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sometimes it have new technology.
Yeah.
But you were
yeah. All right. So like, hopefully I won't get kicked off again. But what I was saying is I've known Kim since 2006 when I was on tour with Christina Milian, and the person that I met then when she wasn't famous, she was just Paris Hilton's stylist and best friend. She's the exact same person. And so when I and Courtney and all of them and Chris and all of them, I mean, I've known them again for a long time, and to watch people have all of these opinions, I've gotten in arguments with friends and falling out with friends. Matter of fact, I'm good. I'm gonna switch over to my laptop. Give me 1 second there. All right. Hold on. All right, so I'm gonna log out of this one. Hold on 1 second. Let's see, because I can see myself. Join. All right. Give me 1 second.
No worries.
All right. Doing. All right.
Oh, 1 second here.
Disconnecting.
There we are. I think we're all good. All right.
You're in the show. Hopefully.
Yeah. Looks good on my end.
You hear me?
Yes.
Perfect, perfect. All right, so we'll do it this way. But yeah, like watch people be so judgmental for what reason and mean, judgmental and mean. I think when people do that, again, it's just how they feel about their own lives. That's just what I believe.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it's like anything in celebrity dumb, but it's just the amount of comments I've heard people say, and I'm just kind of like, at the same time, you gotta respect their hustle because they are as famous as they are, and they've
I
created
believe it.
empires individually and collectively as a family. So, what are you hating?
And at the end of the day, what does it do? How does it offend you? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's the thing for me. It's like, all right, so you're mad and you're calling me, you're spending all this time online talking about who doesn't even know you exist, you know? And in the meantime, you could be spending that same energy and that time something for you, you know? And so I just wish we would be kinder. I really do. And I wish we were wasting so much time sitting around and taught others when you could be asking someone, yo, what I do for you? Are you okay? You
right.
know? Can you imagine him and all the things like if she paid attention to social media, can you imagine what that do to her mental health?
Well, let's just talk about the fact that everybody has their opinion of her and Kanye and everything that's gone down. And I will say that I probably am shooting my mouth in the foot too because I probably had my own opinions. But at the end of the day, it's between them. Like that, I can recognize that maybe I had my own thoughts about that. But in terms of even Kanye's mental health and what he's dealing with,
Yep.
at the end
I
of
was
the
gonna
day,
say that. You know how hard it is to deal with somebody who's bipolar like that? And then you've got the eyes of the one that person. Like,
right?
can you imagine?
Yeah, and that's the thing.
I feel like again, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that was what I was getting at is that the stigma also needs to be maybe you need to understand what it's like to not know what it's
Yeah,
like instead of having an opinion about
yeah,
what it's like.
yeah. I agree with that. I even had to catch myself a couple times because I love Kanye, man, but hell on my nerves sometimes, you know. And sometimes I'll post something, I'm like, nah, I gotta take that down because I don't wanna join that energy of just talking about people when I don't know everything going on in their walk. I've never met Kanye, so I don't know him personally. But at the end of the day, I feel like if nothing else, especially after we've got the last president out of the White House, and you got them all social media, and we notice a difference almost immediately. I
Right.
feel like maybe we could try this a different way. We've been doing this same trolling and arguing and losing friendships and messing up marriages and all these things with something that could have been making the world much smaller, much more interconnected, much more understanding of each other. Because you literally, if you want to talk to somebody in Madagascar or Mozambique, you can literally online and reach out and DM. This is not something we could do in the past. So
Right.
rather than being people that um, are using this beautiful access that we have for negative and evil, maybe we can start trying to find the beauty of it. And that's why I think um, as hard as the DJs Against Hunger thing that we all experienced last month was, it taught me a lot about us.
Yeah. I mean,
Really.
as I was watching the progress of helping this family, it I mean, it always gets to me whenever I see some come together to help people, but this really hit because I just felt like people understood what you were trying to do. It wasn't like, "Oh, he's just doing this because of all the other stuff he's doing." They could really see that no, this is the community coming together for somebody that could be any of us in that situation.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it was painful. And I think that from what I gather from things that people have said to me, that they could see that it was painful. Because if you're someone who's been with me for damn near 10 years. I think we've been rocking for a minute, and
Yeah.
you have never
never, ever, ever seen me move like that ever. And there was, Brooke, there would be times I would wake up and I'm like, um, do I do this today? You know,
Right.
I gotta promote this record. I've got all these other things I'm trying to, get people in the classes. Do I give my fee to this today? Do I give my own mental health to this today? And I prayed, and every time God was like, yes, you do. You know, and so I think people could see that I was struggling at times with it because I was, no problem. I mean, they, the friend, and I'll never say his name until he says it, but I think because what I think people don't realize, he was watching that. My friend,
Yeah.
can you
No,
understand
you're
what
good.
I'm talking about? Okay. He was able to see some of the updates, and you know, I'm not. I tend to be very transparent with everything. Again, you saw me post 0 followers, and then we start, 6,000, 7,000 people in a month. So I had no problem showing people zero. So I've never been someone who tries to put this facade up and becomes a cartoon character, because eventually you're gonna see what's behind the mask. Eventually you will. So I just don't want to deal with that. So I felt like, let me just shoot straight from the beginning. So even he said that, Rose, are you okay with this? And I was like, I'll be okay when you guys will. Just do what needs to be done.
Right. Yeah. Well, on that note, I think like I put up Ross's Instagram. If you don't follow, it's I am Ross. I also will put this in the link description. I mean, the podcast description with all the links.
Yeah.
When this goes up on Monday in audio form on the feed. We've talked about a lot, and I want to thank you again for the coming on my
I
podcast.
love you. I love you. I
Uh,
appreciate the friendship. I appreciate you, and I thank God that the internet allowed us to become friends and get to know each other.
I know, and I've been saying this, I know, for almost a decade, but I got to get out to Atlanta. I got to see what the
Yeah,
fun's all about up there.
come on down before I leave it, because I'm getting the hell out of here. But, yeah, yeah, I'm going to Hawaii Beach. I'm getting out of here, man. I need to be near some water. But I
Yeah.
want to tell you, I understand you taking your break. Do what you need to do for you. If there's anything that I can do for you in your DJ journey, I'm here for you.
All right, will do, definitely. And I don't think I won't want to sign up for that conference we talked about, but
All
we'll get
right,
to that later.
you
All
got it.
right, well,
I'd love to
thanks
have you.
everybody for joining, and thank you, Ross. And we'll see you in the near future or beyond. But thank you.